Mitt Romney obviously has these tapes got to go out about the Boca Raton fundraiser where he says, I don't care about half the country. So he's got to go out and explain it in a press conference late at night, 10:15 Eastern. Seems a bit panicked. Let's watch.
As I point out, I recognize that among those that pay no tax, approximately 47% of Americans, I'm not likely to be highly successful with the message of lowering taxes. That's not as attractive to those who don't pay income taxes as it is to those who do. And likewise, those who are reliant on government are not as attracted to my message of slimming down the size of government.
So, boom, right there, doubling down, no apology. He says, hey, listen, man, I'm trying to cut taxes for the rich. And if you're not in the rich, well, then why the hell would you vote for me? Agreed. Now let's take a look at who is actually in this 47% that Mitt Romney's talking about. Oh my God, these guys that he characterizes bums and the guys that his friends in the top 1% are, supporting and holding up if you listen to his version of events. Well, first of all, let's show you a map. In red, you will see the states that have the most amount of people that do not pay federal income taxes. And in blue, you will see the states that pay the most amount of people that pay federal income tax. Ha! Well, you look at that. Well, that looks like to be the South, isn't it? That looks like predominantly red states who have the most amount of people who do not pay federal income tax. What happened, Mitt Romney? I thought you said that it was all Democratic bums who wouldn't vote for you anyway. Turns out the guys who actually pay the most are in the Northeast and mostly in blue states. What now, Mitt Romney? Okay, it turns out you're 100% wrong. Not surprising. So who are the people under the 47 who are in this so-called 47% who don't pay a federal income tax but do pay payroll tax, who do pay sales tax, local tax, etc.? Well, turns out that they make $30,000 or less. So Romney's saying, can you believe they don't pay federal income tax when they're making a whole $30,000? People in the military, I guess he doesn't expect their vote either. Students, the elderly is a huge chunk of that. And people receiving child tax credits as an example. We'll show you more of the exemptions that people are getting so that they don't have to pay taxes. So before we do that, though, what is the percentage of people who are not elderly and don't pay federal income tax? The real number, if you buy into this Romney idea of these are the bums, the people who are milking off the government. Now remember, the elderly paid into Social Security. They're not bums. They call it an entitlement because they're entitled to it. They paid into it and they get money out, Social Security and Medicare. So you remove them from the equation. Who's left? 7%. Only 7% of the country is non-elderly and has no federal tax liability. So that whole thing about like, oh, look at how out of control the government is, nearly 50% of the country isn't paying taxes. Nonsense. The real number is 7%. All right, now, let's go to those benefits. Well, look, there's elderly tax benefits that reduce your taxes. There's child tax credit, and there's a working poor tax credit. Now, I point this out because Republicans were in favor of almost all of these. So now there were Democrats in favor too. Democrats and Republicans agreed on these. And then after they agree on them, the Republicans turn around and go, how could you? I can't believe that these people aren't paying taxes. Well, will you believe this? From the legendary Ronald Reagan. Listen to what he said back in 1986 when he did tax reform. Quote, millions of the working poor will be dropped from the tax rolls altogether. And families will get a long overdue break with lower rates and almost doubled personal exemption. In other words, there is the Gipper himself, the one they all look up to, bragging about how people won't have to pay taxes because of his tax reform. Interesting. So, hey, Mitt, you got a problem with people not paying taxes? Take it up with Ronald Reagan. You talk to his ghost all the time anyway, every debate. They're like, Ronald Reagan says this, Ronald Reagan is my hero. Well, Ronald Reagan's the one that created this, and he bragged about it. All right, now, by the way, of that 47% that paid no federal income tax, they make it seem like they don't pay any tax. No. In fact, 61% of them pay a payroll tax, which means they are employed. Okay, now then after that you have the elderly, et cetera, right? But 61% are totally employed. They're not like Mitt Romney said on that tape. Oh, they're not working. They don't, they're just trying to milk off the government and they're trying to pretend they're victims. Nonsense. In fact, that payroll tax, if you take the employee side, which is a little over 5%, you and I all pay that out of our paychecks, and you take the employer side. Now, if the employer didn't have to pay that, he could increase your wages. You take both sides, and you're actually taking 15.3% of your income and paying it through the payroll tax. Now, again, that makes sense. You're later getting that from Social Security and Medicare when you retire, right? But it's 15.3%. Now, remember, Mitt Romney doesn't pay 15.3%. Mitt Romney has, in his own admission, not paid more than 13.6%. He says, look, I looked, man, and I couldn't find any year where I paid less than 13. First of all, I don't even believe that. But second of all, there he is admitting he doesn't pay higher than 13. So Mitt Romney actually pays less taxes than the people he's criticizing as basically bums who milk off the government. Unbelievable. Then you remember the Mitt Romney statement about, oh, no, I think the middle class is who I'm trying to help. And George Stephanopoulos asked him, who do you think's in the middle class? He said people who make $200,000 to $250,000. That's unbelievable. Now, you want to know what the real number is? It's $50,054. That is the median income in the U.S. and hence the middle class. Okay, now, here's my favorite one. If you are generous to Mitt Romney and you say, hey, listen, forget the $250,000 number. Let's just talk about people making $200,000. What percentage of the country? You think that's the middle class. You think that's the median income. You're off by at least 4 times. So, but if you do take your number to 200,000, what percentage of Americans fall into that category? 4.2%. That's it. By his own admission, Mitt Romney doesn't care about 47% of you and says that his campaign is structured to help people who make $200,000 a year, which is just the top 4% of us. How bad a candidate are you that you run a presidential campaign saying, I'm for the top 4%? Good luck trying to win 50% that way.